Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Expansive CEO podcast. I am your host, Hannah Chapman, and I am really excited actually today to be talking to this guest. We've talked about sales before on the podcast. I talk to CEOs and entrepreneurs and people who have sales teams a lot. And sales is the lifeblood of any business. Like that is truly what keeps you going is having sales and having consistency in your sales if you can. And I know that's such a big area where I personally know so many business owners and entrepreneurs. They feel the need to have consistency here. And so our guest today is going to talk to us all about. He literally wrote the book on leads. So I would love to introduce you to Scott Groves. He's a husband, a father, a coach, an author, a podcaster, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, addicted to cigars and zins, slightly divisive on social media, always an interesting one. He says perpetually in need of losing those last 5 pounds, but always an all around good dude who cares deeply about salespeople. So, Scott, thank you so much for being here today. I would love for you to expand a little bit on that and tell us more about who you are and why you do what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Looking forward to speaking to anybody who needs to know anything more about sales, whether that's CEOs running their business or fractional CEOs, COOs, or just people managing sales team and maybe some of those individual salespeople. Left high school, barely got through, went into the Army pre 9/11, so never had to shoot at anybody or get shot at, which was pretty nice. Got out and started working in banking, and that led down this sales path of mortgages, being a loan officer for 25 years. And then about 10 years ago, we were having a lot of success in the loan officer world. So that led into coaching other people, right? You start to get those calls when you're successful, like yourself. Hey, can I have 5 minutes? Can I have 10 minutes? Those would always turn into half hour, hour long calls. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well formalize it. Let's just start kind of a free mastermind call on Fridays. And then that turned into a sales training program. And then that turned into writing a book. And that turned into doing a joint venture with a company called Panda Planner to come up with a planner to really organize your day. And it's just kind of been like on and on and on of growing through practical knowledge, formal education, being part of other mastermind groups of like, how can I serve salespeople in general. And sometimes that means coming in at the company level and training whole sales teams. Sometimes that just means training one off for loan officers, realtors, insurance agents that are trying to merge this modern world of yes, we need technology. Yes, I love AI. Yes, I think there's a place for the Instagram, Facebook funnel that leads to the white paper that does the thing. But at some point, the phone has to be picked up and you have to build a relationship if you're selling anything more than a $5 product or $50 product on Instagram. At some point the sales process has to happen, and so that's what I'm passionate about. That's what I've written a book on. And yeah, it's kind of all about just like filling the pipeline with quality leads, building those relationships, and then retaining clients and turning them into repeat clients. And that's pretty much what I specialize on.
Well, everyone who listens to the podcast regularly knows that I am also a financial advisor. That's my main business is X Squared Wealth Planning. And so to know that you were in the mortgage loan industry for, what'd you say, 20 years, 25?
25 years, yeah.
25 years. I mean, financial sales are hard. It is hard to get started. I will speak for myself. Like it was hard for me
It's
to
hard
get
for everybody
started.
to get started. You're not
Yeah.
alone.
Okay, good. I mean, literally, I've talked about it on the podcast before. The evolution that I've gone through in my own sales process and mindset, and to get to where I am today, where I absolutely love sales calls. I love jumping on an exploration call with someone and really like finding out what they need and seeing if I'm a good fit. And if I'm not a good fit, then great. Like there's someone else out there for you and someone else out there for me. But holy crap, it took a long time to get there. Like it really did. It took a lot of um maybe not blood, but definitely sweat, stress sweat in the pits
Yes, lots
all
of
the
stuff.
time, so many tears, just so much mental anguish is the word that's coming up in learning all of this. And so, if anyone else is in that spot, in financial sales or otherwise, how do you help them move through that more quickly and more easily to get to the other side of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think you used a great word there. I actually wrote it down. Exploration or exploratory call versus a sales call, right? Because we've all been sold something. I had a
Mhm.
guy come to my door and he was super personable and super fast talking, and he sold me on buying some weird cleaner product, which to this day I don't think I've ever actually opened. And I'm sure the stuff works great, and I'm sure he's a great guy and whatnot. But in that moment, I was in a rush. I felt bad for the guy. It's 100 degrees out here in Henderson, which is right outside of Las Vegas. I'm like, whatever, $40 to make him go away. But I was sold that, right? It was like a hardcore pressure sale, talk till we say yes. And there's still a lot of old school training on that. And, I guess if that's your jam, cool, go for it. But I want people when they work with us or when they work with one of my clients to feel like they left in a better spot and they have a better relationship. So just that simple language that you use to say, hey, I'm doing an exploratory call, and either me or my services or my results are going to sell themselves because this person has a void in their life and they need somebody like you to fill that void. I think that is where people start to lean more into the authenticity of
Mhm.
being a value add instead of being a salesperson. For example, the industry that I worked in forever, I hate the term loan officer because the people doing the mortgages, right? Or bringing in the clients, they're salespeople. They're not loan
Yeah.
officers. Loan officers, contrary to popular belief, have zero authority whatsoever to approve a loan. Their job is to build the relationship, help package the loan, and help get the client on the path and the journey to home ownership. But this idea of like a loan officer has some type of approval authority is just a misnomer. And so I think even in a lot of industries, and I see this, I've coached everything from, warehouse supply salesmen to insurance agents to a guy that runs a very successful company selling unique specialty bike parts. At the end of the day, you can hard sell people, but that doesn't leave people feeling good about the purchase. And they
Mhm.
sure as hell probably will not become a repeat client. Or you can do an analysis of like what's their need, what's the value proposition that your product or service fills, and then you can move into that relationship building, right? And so a lot of what we talk about is just it's very simple but not easy to move people through quote unquote the sales process. People have heard this before, but you just need to get people to know you, like you, and trust you. And so, whether somebody gets to know you through social media or they get to know you through your online presence or your newsletter or your cold calling or whatever, they're not going to give you a shot until they know who you are and the service or product you provide. And then they like you enough to give you a shot, either for that exploratory call or to send you a referral if you're doing like B2B type stuff. And then you got to have the systems and process in place for them to trust you with the second, third, fourth, or 50th referral or business interaction. And so I think kind of taking a step back and being like, yes, a lot of people come to me because I wrote this silly book, Lead Generate 61 Days to Double Your Pay. So people come to us being like, okay, well, I need more leads.
Yeah.
And we start to coach them on like, okay, well, what is the process to find those leads, nurture those leads, get into a relationship with them, and then close, especially if you're selling a high ticket item or a high ticket service like a $500,000 mortgage or a $300,000 IRA rollover or a $80,000 car. This has to be more relationship based, or you've kind of already lost from the outset, and you're going to have to count on all these sneaky tricks and tactics and scripts. And I don't know. More and more I just want to be in alignment, and like that sleazy sales process is just not in alignment with however many years I have left on this planet.
Oh my gosh, you are speaking to my heart because that was that's how I was taught, right? So back in 2007 is when I first entered the financial planning industry. I was in banking before that. And so 2007 switched over to financial services, and we were given like sales training, and it was intense and it was a lot, and it was all about like we had to have a script, we had to freaking memorize the script. um I was really good at memorizing things, and it also like it felt so dumb. Like,
Right.
yeah, I can memorize this. These are not my words. I wouldn't speak like this. Um, And yet, in order to like get through and be able to have like hold my meetings, I have to memorize this script and perform it. And then it's like, okay. And then when they push back, when they have, objections, now we go to the objection handling and you tell them all about your credentials and you tell them all about these things and you know, push back. So anything that was an objection was like meant to be overcome.
Yep.
And that was part of the training. And so the fundamental thing that shifted for me really, and that made my sales process feel better was shifting from like all of that, the objection handling, the scripting, all of it is driving towards a yes. You're
Right.
trying to drive that person to a yes. And so all the manipulation tactics you talk about, all the sleaze, everything, it feels sleazy because you know what that salesperson wants from you. They want a yes from you and they're driving towards that. And I love that you called out the just the difference in naming. So when I do have an exploration call, we're not driving to a yes.
Right.
We're driving to clarity. We just want clarity on what is it that you actually need and want and are available for and have the finances for and have the time for. We're driving to clarity on both sides, my side and the client or prospect. We're not driving to a yes.
Yeah,
And
there's
it's
a great
so
sales book
different.
on this very topic. Chris Voss, who wrote the book Never Split the Difference. I think it's the great sales or negotiating book. I think it's the best one of all times. Chris Voss was a FBI hostage negotiator, and then after
Yeah.
he got out of that world, he realized like all these same techniques and styles work in the business world. And he would actually argue what you want to get to is an authentic no instead of a BS yes, right? Because
Yeah.
we've all had that salesperson call us, they catch us at a moment and they're like, Scott, do you like clean water? Yes, I like clean water. Would you like your children to have clean water? Yeah, I'd love. Do you care about the environment? Yes. Would you like to donate $20 a month in perpetuity to the Clean Water Fund of Southern Nevada? It's like, no, you're trying to trick me. I hate you. Take me off your list. Don't ever call me again. Now I have become enraged and mad about clean water, which is
Right.
something I should not be enraged or mad at. But it's because we can all see through these sneaky techniques, right? And so I won't rehash it here, but anybody's interested should go read Chris Voss's book. He talks about you're way better off getting to an authentic no than like a bogus yes. And I think that's really important for salespeople to understand because not everybody's going to be your client, right? Sometimes you're the favorite in the transaction, sometimes you're the fool. It's not like a sin to lose business, it's a sin to lose business slowly. And I'm
Mhm.
stealing that directly from a previous coach of mine, Steve Scholl, who wrote a book with Chris Voss called The Full Fee Agent for Realtors. And it's like, we're all going to lose business, right? I'm not the right fit for everybody. You're not the right fit for everybody. But we just want to get to that authentic no. Like, if I'm not the right person that's here to serve you, cool. Let's find out sooner rather than later. You can move on and go to somebody else, or maybe I can refer you to somebody else. But at the end of the day, anybody who's teaching you in the sales world, get to yes, da 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 da, I think it's bogus, right?
Mhm.
And I will say I constantly try to balance two thoughts at the same time that are kind of in contradiction with each other because I agree with you. I don't like the scripts. Here's your little file of folder for the objections. And I think nobody is smarter than the checklist. So,
Yeah.
as recently as a few months ago when I was still helping on the mortgage side of things, I've done thousands of mortgages. But every time somebody goes under contract for a new house, I whip out the 3-page checklist and I'm like, hey, there's some stuff we have to go over. I'm going to get to all of your questions, but to set you up for success in this transaction, there's a bunch of yes, no questions I have to go over, a bunch of things I need to find out about the property. So it's like we have that checklist in our business. And when I teach sales professionals who I work with, you've got to have the checklist to make sure you cover everything that needs to be covered. But like you have to be you, you
Mhm.
know? I can always tell when coaching clients are taking things seriously because they'll call me and maybe they're a week or a month or a decade into coaching and they're finally going to make some more sales calls and they're like, "Hey Scott, uh, I'm going to call these 10 people a day that you talked to me about in my business vertical. What's the script?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's super easy. All you do is you call them and you say, 'Hey, Hannah, did I catch you at a bad time?'" Again, getting to an authentic no. They're going to say, "No, no, no, I picked up the phone. What's up? Who's this?" And then the script is you be an effing human because people want to connect to humans, right? So I don't care what you're talking about. just be a human. Like you're not going to go and then we got to do this. And it's like that stuff is so tiresome. And not only is it tiresome just as a human, it's been super played out with call centers. So we're all just immune to it, right? Just
Right.
pick up the phone, figure out with an authentic no if it's a good time to talk to them, and then be a human and try to build a relationship to see if your product or service fits their needs. And that's the end of it. We overcomplicate this stuff so much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We are living in a time where we are so heavily marketed to, just constantly, right? It's a constant barrage of marketing from social media to, driving and seeing signage all over the place to like everything is trying to sell to us. So our nervous systems are on alert, I think, all the time. And so, yes, when you approach someone with that intent to sell, and I think the underlying intent, the intent to get to a yes, people feel that immediately. And we're
Absolutely.
right. And we've got this, like you said, we've got this buffer around us now because it's like, I have to be on guard if I don't want to spend money today or if I
Right.
don't, right? Like it's such a different energy than even I would say like in the 90s when a lot of these 80s, 90s when a lot of these sales tactics were kind of popular, right? It's like no, we didn't have when people used to pick up the phone all the time, like that
Right.
it's a different time now.
Right. Right.
That's
And
not
you know
how
what's
things
so
work.
funny? What's so funny is I probably got, and this is no exaggeration, a call every 72 hours for would you like to buy an extended car warranty, right? I don't know why that was like the telemarketing flavor of the decade until probably about a year ago. I either finally eliminated myself from all their lists. I mean, I would get calls every couple days, and they're sneaky, right? Because they use your same area code with
Right.
their little caller ID thing, so you think maybe it's someone you know. And hey, can we talk to you about your extended car warranty? No, take me off your list. Hang up. No, take me off your list. Hang up. Sure enough, like 30 days ago, I needed an extended car warranty on my Ram 2500, and I'm like, well, why is nobody calling me now? Like, I'm ready to give somebody $3,000 for my extended warranty. And then what was beautiful is the dealership that I go to, I think their marketing is spot on. They just called to check in. Hey, do you need anything? I think it started with the text message and that turned into a phone call. Like, hey, we know you own this truck. If you ever want to trade it in, if you need service suggestions, if you need anything, here's how you get in touch with us. And I'm like, oh, awesome. A little bit of permissive marketing. You're not trying to sell me anything. You're not trying me to get me in this Saturday before Memorial Day to trade in my truck. You're just like, if you need anything as a owner of this $100,000 truck that you have, give us a call. Sure enough, I called him, and 5 minutes later, I had purchased like a $3,000 extended warranty because the truck that I have does not have a great history and the parts are very expensive. And so that was the difference between just like hammering me when I didn't need them and trying to intrude upon my time, which made me mad at all those companies, versus like a service-based business where they're like, hey, when you need something, we're here. And very subtle change, but all those other companies that had called me before did not get my money. And this company that just reached out to be like, I don't know, a service or there as like a trusted partner when I need them, they got my business. And I was like, oh, here we go. This is marketing and sales 101.
Yeah. So what do you think is or what do you know is the underlying piece there? What's that difference for you? How would you describe that difference?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. And I don't even know what firm you work with or who you clear your financial transactions through. But I think it's the difference between intrusive marketing and permissive marketing, right? So Seth Godin wrote a book. He's written many books on marketing. I love his stuff. He would say, when we're constantly intruding on people, not only do we not make the sale or grow the relationship, we actually turn them off from our service or product. But if you can find a way to set up permissive marketing, then you're already leaps and bounds ahead of the person that's cold calling me. So, for example, if you were thinking of going from company A, where you clear your financial transactions and advisor, to company B, you're probably happy where you're at. You're probably there for a reason. Recruiters can call you till they're blue in the face, right? And they likely will not have a shot at getting you to come work at their firm instead of the firm you're working at. However, if some recruiter was to, maybe quarterly, maybe every few months, just send out an email that says, hey, here's a white paper on the 10 mistakes financial planners make when they're changing companies. Oh, well, now if you click on that link or you download that paper, you've clearly shown some interest in the fact that you're probably thinking about changing companies. And now it would not be off brand for company B to call you and be like, "Hey, Hannah, here's the deal, man. We saw you download this paper, the 10 mistakes that people make on changing financial firms or whatever. Did you have any questions on that? Obviously, we would love you to come work for us, but we just want to be here as a value add, whether you work for us or not. We just want to help financial planners make good decisions." Well, now you're in conversation, you're in relationship, it's something you're interested in. That's a strategy that recruiters could use instead of just like, I haven't had numbers reporting in my name on the mortgage side for years. They still call me all the time. Hey, can I tell you about Franklin Financial? I don't even know if that's a real company. Can I tell you about Franklin? You should be doing your mortgages here. Dude, you don't know anything about me other than my name, and you don't even know my production numbers because they show under my partner's name. You're just cold calling through a list of thousands of loan officers. How can you possibly imagine working with you would be the best fit for me? But where I have changed companies in the past is like build a relationship with a senior leader. They ask me a lot of questions about what my goals are. And at some point, when I'm disgruntled with my current company, they'll be like, hey, here's the 4 ways we think that we can make you happier or solve your problems. Oh, okay. This is worth a conversation. And so I think if you can just find an angle to get into that permissive marketing instead of like interruption marketing, I think you're already leaps and bounds ahead of your competitor. And then, it takes some creativity and whatnot. And I still fall victim to buying some garbage on Instagram once in a while because they had a really good ad. So there's a place for that. But I think when we're talking about selling high ticket items, people's careers, people's finances, durable goods that are very expensive, there has to be some relationship there or you're just dead in the water to begin with.
I couldn't agree more with especially the high end, high ticket sales of any sort, which, tends to be, I mean, that's my business model. And that tends to be, most of my clients also work in service-based businesses of some sort where they are selling, a higher ticket item. And it comes with a higher touch service, right? And so one of the things that's really important to me and one of the sales kind of processes that I've tapped into and use a lot is to make sure that I sell the way that I serve.
Mm,
And I love that phrasing that comes from one of my mentors, Marla Mattinson, who that was really important for her as she learned her truly like getting into high ticket sales. Because if you sell differently than you serve, right? If your sales process is really automated and then you have this really high touch service, then that also doesn't match. Like it's not congruent. But if then you also have a really high touch sales process and then you like F off and you're not there and present in the actual transaction, right? It again, you're not congruent with what's happening and people feel that out to your point before of like not having repeat or referral business. So that congruence between like my sales process, deeply getting to know people. You've talked about relationship quite a bit. I create long-term relationships with my clients, whether that's months or years. And so in that process of, getting to know someone, it truly is that exploration call. Like, I need to get to know you because we could potentially be working together for years on this other side. And sometimes people stay with their financial advisors for decades, right? Like this is like the relationship aspect is really important. And even to your point of the truck, like my different experiences with that have been really interesting too, right? Like my husband has a Lexus SUV that, he gets mailers all the time and, just reminders. And it's like, oh, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that this thing is happening without it being intrusive, like you're saying. They're not
right.
calling on the phone, they're not being really annoying. But when he needs parts, here we go. Like I'm taking it to the dealership, I'm not taking it somewhere else.
Right.
And that aspect of just again, being really congruent, being you, being authentic in your sales so that when you get to the service aspect of what you do, I think really, really goes a long way.
It's interesting because I'll go into the financial world again, whether this is insurance or mortgages or real estate. Um, there's a lot of fun things to say, right? Realtors, for example, they'll lose a client and they'll be like, "Oh, buyers are liars. This is why I only want to have listings because it's a guaranteed commission." And these buyers just they dump you at the last minute and they lie to me and they're horrible human beings. Rah, 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 rah. I'm like, "Oh, cool. Tell me a little bit about your process." Okay, well, I send them a link to sign the buyer broker agreement, and then I send them some listings through an automated system, and I'm like, cool. Let me tell you what my friend Dan does. Dan has a sit down consultation with them and goes over the David Letterman top 10, right? Now I'm really aging myself because David Letterman hasn't been on TV for 20 years. But he'll go through the top 10 of like, okay, in a house, what are you looking for? Walkability, bedroom, bathroom count, can't be a condo, has to have a yard, whatever your top 10 things are. And then he'll have a very frank discussion about, hey, at the end of the day, I've had people build their own custom house and they'll get like 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. So if we find 4 out of 10 for your first house, this is where you should make an offer. If you find 6 out of 10 things in a particular house, you should be swinging for the fences, maybe bidding over the ask price to try to get this place. And he does like a consultation, go figure, because these people are making a million and sometimes multi-million dollar purchase, right? He doesn't lose buyers because he has a relationship with them. They know that they're aligned for what they're looking at. He's given them advice on what to look at and how to conceptualize the process of buying a house. And, it's funny because other financial professionals they want to treat their client like a robot and then they wonder why that robot finds a better deal and just makes a robot decision of like, well, if I'm just comparing apples to apples, why wouldn't I go with this better deal or this cheaper service provider or whatnot? So, well, you treat them like a robot, they're going to act like a robot, right?
Yeah.
You treat them like a human, you'll have a better chance of retaining that relationship and that client like a human. And so, I think you can do that at the high end. And then I'll give you an example where a company is doing this beautifully at the low end is there's a clothing company I like called I Am Project X. They do Hawaiian branded workout clothes and board shorts and stuff like that. And it's not cheap, 60, $65 for a pair of shorts, but it's not particularly inexpensive or expensive. It's kind of right in the middle of the clothing, right? When you order from them, you get a postcard that is written up by the CEO that says, "Hey, thanks for being part of the family. We really appreciate it. Da, da, da. If you have any problems with your order or anything, call me. This is my cell phone." No, really? It's the same phone number my mom calls me on. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's like a good marketing thing. Sure enough, I'd ordered probably thousands, embarrassingly, dollars of stuff from them. And I got a package and I thought for sure that they had messed something up. So I'm like, well, let's give it a try. I call the cell phone and it's whoever it is. I can't even remember his name now. He's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, I ordered this thing, blah, 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 blah. I don't think I got the right one. As a matter of fact, I think part of my order is missing. He's like, give me 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, I'm not kidding you, Hannah. I had a video recording of their packaging depot in Hawaii or wherever they're at, of the gal filling my individual package. She's like, hey, I see that we put the shorts in there. Can you double check? And sure enough, I was totally wrong. I had ordered like a mismatched size. And so I had what I needed. I just thought I had paid for more. And I'm like, holy cow. This is on a $60 product, $65 product. They have this level of customer service. And I've talked about that brand probably 20 times on podcast interviews, keynotes that I've given. And it's like that guy created a raving fan out of just having a very good customer service process. And to your point about, hey, the way that you sell, is that also the way you serve? Well, they sell a high ticket for clothing item. It comes with this postcard that gives you like a warm fuzzy about what you bought. But if I called that and it went to some call center, I'd be like, oh, yeah, you're not serving me the way that you're selling me on your brand or your product. But nope, they are totally in alignment on how they serve their clients versus how they sell their value proposition. And just like if you're into Hawaiian branded clothing, I Am Project X is your best bet because I can't say enough good things about how they've created their sales process and then their fulfillment process. It's a beautiful alignment.
That's such a good story and such a like it's a really good reminder, that for any company, like literally any company that's listening, like if you take care of your customers, you eventually don't have to, I mean, you still have to market in some ways, but like they will do the work for you. Your
Yep.
customers will do the work for you because you've created such an amazing experience. It's so easy to compare to crappy experiences, right?
Yeah.
In my industry, being a financial advisor, I always part of my checklist is given in a questionnaire, like an upfront questionnaire. If we're going to do an exploration call, there's, questions that I have people fill out so that I can get to know some of, like, I know what I'm getting into in the call, right? So it's about their mindset around money. It's about how they feel about money, where they want to be. And then where are they right now? Like, what are your financials right now in these different areas and in your business and in your personal life? And then some other pretty like normal questions as well. But it gives me that sense of like, okay, I know where we're starting from. And um, it allows me to tailor my conversation to them more specifically. I forgot where I was going with that, to be
Well,
completely honest.
I'll say something positive about your process, which I love, and this is something that I would be consulting on if I got brought into a financial planning institution, is I love that your process is also filtering for your ideal client, right?
Right.
Because if somebody tells you, "Hey, I don't want to fill out this questionnaire. I don't want you to know all about my finances. I have this $100,000 mutual fund I want to roll over. What's the best you think you can do for me on a rate of return?" Well,
No,
you just know that's not your client, and that's okay. Like we've come to an
exactly.
agreement that like, hey, you should be on a low cost Charles Schwab doing your own research, trade your own mutual fund, right? I'm here for the
Right.
more holistic picture. And so I love when people have tripwires,
Yeah.
because I'm guessing if somebody authentically fills out that package and you have a conversation and they decide that you're not the right fit to work with them or they don't have enough investable assets for you to work with them either way, you probably feel good about that, right? You still added some value. You still had a good conversation. Maybe even somebody who doesn't transact business with you becomes a raving fan or a referral source. Like these things are all important to how we set up our sales process so that by the time they sign on the line, which is dotted to actually ACAT the funds over to you, there's no confusion and there's no hesitancy or no buyer's remorse because you've done all those upfront steps. And I love that about how you're describing your business.
That's exactly where I was going. Thank you for bringing that back around because one of the questions is, have you worked with a financial advisor before? And what was that experience like for you? And I would say at least 85, if not 90% of people that come to me have worked with an advisor before and have had a bad experience. And they get to tell me a little bit about what that was like. And so, I mean, from the standpoint of, you know, I like to say I don't even have competition. Like I don't believe that I have competition because I believe there's so many humans that
Right.
need these services that it's like, yeah, again, there's no scarcity in my mind that the clients who are here for me. And if they're not for me, they're great for someone else. Um, but so many people have had not good experiences to downright like terrible experiences with financial advisors and financial professionals. And so there's not just the, like, okay, I know I can serve you better than that, but at the same time, like there's actually some healing that also needs to happen, right?
Yeah.
There's extra trust building that this person is going to need to know that they're safe because they had, an experience before that was not good. But yeah, I mean, that's when you can provide that raving fan, worthy service. I mean, it's like the competition just doesn't exist if you really do have that good of service.
And you know what's interesting? I'm going to make an assumption, but I think I'm right because I used to have my Series 7 and all that stuff when I worked at Washington Mutual. I'm going to guess the client who tells you that they had a quote unquote bad experience, they're not saying, well, in 2019, I should have gotten a 9.5% return. This financial advisor only got me a 7.8% return. I'm going to guess that it's never part of the conversation. It's more like they didn't call me back. They didn't advise me. They screwed up a paperwork rollover. Like something was wrong with the process or the bedside manner. They weren't even that angry about the result. Is that a fair assumption?
Always.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah,
It's almost always, bedside manner is great, great analogy there. It's how they're treated.
Right.
How they're treated through the process, how they're treated in meetings, literally how they're communicated with, how they're spoken to. Most people feel very spoken down to from financial professionals. So when you have someone who's willing to like answer your questions, I, very recent experience, literally me and my husband with our insurance. So we just bought a new house. We had to get new homeowners insurance. And the insurance agent that we were working with started like really talking down to me, knowing who I am, knowing that also a financial professional. I'm also an insurance professional. I'm like, what's happening here? Like, this got really weird. What's crazy is that that's not like that's his normal operandi, right? That's his normal MO of
Right.
how he works with clients. I'm like, I can't ever we're not going to keep working with you, but also I can never recommend you because
Right.
because
Right.
I was like it was so off-putting. Like I know we can go somewhere and get better service. You are basically in a concierge type service at this point, right? When if
Yeah.
you're in a service profession, you're here to help answer people's questions.
Yeah. Especially because most industries, your industry, the financial world, the mortgage world, most industries have become commoditized.
Hmm.
And most education has become democratized, right? So it's
Right.
like I can shop. What is the cost of a trade or the advisory fees or whatever, company A versus company B? I can go watch 100 YouTube videos on it. What we're really paying for in the sales world, and my buddy John Israel has this great format for this. He calls it lead, LEAD. Really, all you can do is you can lead people, you can educate them, you can advocate for them, or you can delight slash entertain them, right? That's really the only way that we can stand out. So, when we're talking or I'm coaching loan officers about talking to clients, is we just tell them up front, hey, if you want to look at all the other rates out there, I'll show you right now where they're at and whatnot. But the market's pretty homogenized, right? You're not going to find somebody who's the low cost leader, or else they would be the only company in town. And there's other things that go into the process advocating for you with the listing agent, making sure that you're on the right path to be a perfect homeowner. These are the conversations that have to evolve in the sales process, or it's just a race to the bottom on cost. And the reality is, and I'm sure you see this a lot in the financial world, is like, well, why should I pay you anything when I can just go on, schwab.com and trade my own stock for zero fees? It's like, well, yeah, you can absolutely do that. You know, Tell me about the last time you sold a stock too early. Tell me about the time that you held on to some type of investment too long. Hey, how does this work with your long-term plans of life insurance and disability insurance and whatnot? Like when I was still doing loans full time, the number of people that I would talk to who had kids, multiple houses, a business, a lot of money in investments, and didn't have a trust. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to help you with the mortgage side of things, but we got to take a step back. California is a probate state, right? Do you know what happens? And I know it's hard to think of our untimely demise, but life is undefeated. We're all going to die. So let's just have that conversation. Do you know what happens right now to your kids, to your business, to your houses, to your assets? If God forbid something happens to you and your money has to go through probate, crazy Uncle Jimmy, who you hate and haven't talked to for 10 years, is going to come out of the woodwork and say that that house, that money is his, right? Or he's the one that's supposed to be raising your children. That's a nightmare scenario that I sadly, working in the financial space for 25 years, has seen, right? And I'm
Right.
sure you've seen something similar too. And so just moving into that advisory role. And then you said something about the kind of like talking down to you education from the insurance agent. And in some ways, I'm like, oh, that's so embarrassing. And in some ways, I'm like, well, I kind of get it, right? Because he feels like he's got to go through his checklist of education and maybe he didn't realize what your level was. One of the questions that I like to ask people, this is like one of the most powerful relationship building, relationship or potentially ending if you do it wrong, and time saving questions is asking for permission to educate the client. Right.
Yes.
So it's
Mhm.
like, had he started this with like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Chapman, I don't really know your level of experience here. I don't know how many houses you've bought and sold. Like, do you mind if I kind of educate you on the insurance process? And you're like, no, I'm good. I actually have my Series 63, my insurance license. I've been doing this for a long time. We're just needing to know, like, how does your team work and like, what can you do for me on insurance? First of all, he would have saved himself a mountain of time because he could skip all those steps.
Right.
And then he's showing you the respect to meet you where you're at and find out, okay, do you need the basic 101 insurance education, or can we bypass some of that and move into some more of the technical questions and how insurance is part of your overall like financial safety net? And when you start to ask those questions for permission to ask additional questions or give additional education, you just look like a superstar compared to the call center person that's like, what's the address? How much coverage do you need? Who's your loan officer? When are you closing on the transaction? It's like, okay, well, I could have done that myself on an automated form,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, ask that question. Is it okay to educate and then figure out where your client's at and then meet them where they're at?
Yeah. Asking for permission is so, the other way I've heard that is like asking for consent,
Yeah,
right? Like continuously and throughout the conversation, like not assuming that the first time that you ask permission is the only time that it needs
yeah.
to be down through the conversation. Like if it comes up again, what do you know about this? How do you know, are we okay to talk about this next topic? All of that, just giving someone the respect is what it feels like from the other side, right?
Right.
Again, like just basic human decency and respect of, okay, let's see where are you on this particular piece of the process? What do you know already? What do you know already is also a good question. Like,
I
yeah,
love that.
what do you know here already, or do you have any idea? And then they can say, oh, I really, I don't know anything. Like, I just really need your help. Or, well, I've done this and that, so I have some, idea. I've bought this kind of house, but I've never bought, a multifamily property, or that kind of thing. Oh,
Right.
okay, so this is like that and you can move from there. But it's always coming back to, yeah, respecting the people across from you.
And then you know what's a beautiful thing if you do this right, and I'm talking to the salesperson right now or the managers of a sales team, is that when you've done this correctly and you've set the table correctly, what you've done, which is imperative for growing the business, is you've earned the right to ask the current people you're working with for other referrals, right?
Hmm.
And so a lot of financial professionals think like, well, I've got to get to the end, whatever that means, selling them the house, getting them into the mortgage, moving all their assets over. I've got to wait to get to the end to ask for a referral. And I'm constantly trying to get salespeople to reframe their mindset around this. And again, this is easy for me because I was in the mortgage world so much. So I'll just go back to this example. If somebody has sent you a mortgage application, I now know, do you owe child support? Have you been divorced before? I have your bank statements. I know whether or not you buy your lingerie at Victoria's Secrets or Walmart. Like if you've now gotten into a relationship with that person and you've done these relationship building steps much earlier in the process, you might now feel confident because you have earned the right to ask for additional referrals, right? And so one of the things that I would tell people in your world is like, okay, cool, you've done this exploratory call, you've really 90% of the way there on building the relationship. Now it's probably just some technical stuff to get them to actually move the assets over. That's a great time to say, hey, is there anybody else in your world that could benefit from having this type of conversation? And 9 out of 10 times they're going to say no. 99 out of 100 times they're going to say no. But you're planting the seed that, like, this is how I do business. I provide a service, and then I want to provide the same level of service to other people in your world. So then by the second, third, fourth, fifth time you go back and ask for a referral tactfully, they're going to be so much more likely to give that to you because you set the table up front that, like, this is how I do business. I'm not running Instagram ads for financial planner
Right.
services. I count on people like you to refer other people like you. And of course, all of our conversations, because I have a fiduciary responsibility, will stay private, as will it stay private with anybody you refer over to me. But like, I would just like to help more people like you, right? And what you're doing is you're like edifying the client. Like, you're good enough for me to work with. What other good people do you know that I could also work with? And it's just this virtuous cycle when you start to get in like the relationship business instead of just the sales process.
Oh yeah. And the other thing that really um, tags right along with that is that if you are asking the people that one you really click with, that you really like your ideal client, if you get those in the door and then you give them a knock your socks off experience and say, hey, is there anyone else that you anyone else that would benefit from this same service. I would love to help other people like you. You're literally doing the thing of creating the business that works for you, right? And in so much as you're replicating your ideal client. And that's, I mean, for me, that's such a huge aspect. One of the reasons why I created my own firm and left the bigger broker dealer that I was with was that I wanted to build a business that felt good to my heart, that felt that I feel fully invested in and fully aligned with. And so that means getting to work with clients that I love. I truly love my clients. Like when I think about my book of business, I am just like in so much gratitude for the people that have trusted me to work with them, and for the people who've trusted me for a really long time. And it's just like I get to keep replicating that when they send me referrals. They're like, oh, this is my best friend, and they're awesome, and you'll love them. And sure enough, they're awesome, and I love them. It's like, why would I do anything else? This is exactly what I hoped for.
Yeah, I love that. Excuse me. I'm a little under the weather today. Um, you use one of my favorite words, which is alignment, right? And I think we'll use the car dealership example. Car dealerships are so out of alignment because car salesmen sell a product that they know if they let you off the lot, you're like 90% likely to buy somewhere else. I've read some of the stats on this. Like if you walk on the lot and they don't close you the first time you're there, chances are you're going to go buy another brand or from another dealership. Conversely, where dealerships really make their money is on the service side of the house with the extended warranties and the oil changes and all that stuff. So you want to talk about being out of alignment, like the slimiest people I've ever met are selling the product of a car. And some of the most genuine salespeople I've ever met are selling the service of the car because one's a product and one's a service. And it's just like, it's so out of whack where like I get butterflies in my stomach if I go drop off my car for service because I know Hector is going to be awesome. He's going to walk me through everything I need to know. But God forbid I got to stay on property for an hour. Like I always just take an Uber home and come back and pick up my car because like I don't want to be on the lot and assaulted by the slimy product salespeople, right? And I would love an opportunity. If there's anybody listening to this who owns a car dealership to figure out how we could change that dynamic. Because I think if they could bring a little bit more of the service salesperson acumen into the product sales of the car, it would just be such a better experience. But I don't know if that's an industry that's ever going to be saved.
I don't know. Maybe if you put it out there into the universe, we'll see. And speaking of that, I would love for you to share, if people want to learn more about you, if they want to, if they have a sales team or they want that sales coaching, like to be a more authentic version of themselves and get those leads in the door in the way that actually, again, is in full alignment with who they are and what they do. How do they get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that stuff, I'm / Scott L. Groves. L as in loser or lover, depending on what you think of me. You can either love me or think I'm a loser, but it's Scott L. Groves on all the social or just Scott at Scott Groves team. Again, I did write this book on lead generation, which is relevant, and there is a process to generating more leads, which is really just showing up and doing the work. But what's funny is a lot of people that get into our coaching program, they come for the leads because they read the book. And then we realize, oh, there's a problem under the problem. There's an alignment issue, or there's a comfort issue, or do you really have a time management problem, or do you have a morning routine problem? Where you hit the snooze button five times, you get up at the last minute. By the time you get into the office, it's like, oh my God, my email is overwhelming me. So we can definitely teach sales, and we have a lot of courses for that. We got a lot of workshops for that. But a lot of times when I really get deep in with a company or a salesperson, it's really fixing the issue under the issue and peeling back the layers. Because I'll leave you with this. Again, two thoughts can be true at the same time. One, we don't want to be this slimy salesperson that's just always going for yes. And there should be no shame around being a salesperson because until you sell me on your financial services, I can't benefit from what you have to offer. So we
Right.
got to keep these two thoughts front and center all the time of like, don't fall into the drive for yes, slimy techniques. And there is nothing shameful about being a salesperson because nothing good happens until a product or service is sold to the right person.
Oh, it's so, so impactful. It's such a good reframe for anyone who is in sales, which is literally everyone. Everyone is actually
Everyone's
in
in
sales.
sales.
Everyone's in sales. But that, yeah, your sales, what you sell is a gift, and it truly is a gift to the people that can benefit from it. Um, and to really think of it that way. So thank you, Scott, so much for being here. It was such a pleasure. I loved your energy. I felt like this was a really full on conversation. I really appreciate it. And I hope that this goes to exactly all the people who need to hear it and to have that encouragement. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and be sure to like and subscribe. And again, if anything resonated with you from this episode, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Hannah, HANNAH, at expansiveceo.com and tell me about it. And if you're ready for your greatest expansion, you can find ways to work with me at expansiveceo.com and at x2wealthplanning.com. That's X, the numeral 2, wealthplanning.com. So until next time, remember that there is enough, you are enough, and your birthright in this lifetime is to be expansive.